hope I don't offend anybody too hard. Everyone's gay. You're gay. I'm gay. The world is so gay. Hey, what's up? It's me, Shantae. I'm back here today to continue this series of videos that I started. I know it's been a while since I made one. Today, what I want to talk about is, can you be a gay Christian? And what it means to be homosexual in our Christian culture today in North America. I should say right off the hop that I'm not here to talk about what the Bible specifically has to say about homosexuality. I'm here to talk about our church culture and how we perceive homosexuality, how people are navigating through that. I should start with a bit of a disclaimer about who this video is for. And when I say who this video is for, I'm talking about the kind of language that I'm going to use. I've had a lot of Christian people watching my videos, which has been great, and I'm glad that you're watching. But these videos are also for people who've either left the church or are just curious about what church culture could look like. And it's about my experiences. So I'm going to do my best to speak with words that both Christians understand and the queer community understands, because if you come from church culture, you know what I'm talking about when I say people speak Christianese language. And it's helpful if I'm trying to communicate to only Christians, but I'm not trying to communicate to only Christians through these videos. So sorry if you get a little bit confused with some of my word choices. I'm gonna try and make sure everything is pretty clear for everyone to understand. To start off, one thing that I thought I should make clear is what the word queer means. If you're probably above the age of 45, you'd think that the word queer is an insult. It's not an insult unless you are using it towards someone to be an insult or to tear them down. But I myself would identify as a queer person. And what that means is the word queer is an umbrella term. So instead of saying I am either straight or gay or bisexual or pansexual or asexual or transgender or genderqueer, anything like that, anywhere on the spectrum, it just means that I fall somewhere on there. Instead of choosing one of those words as a label to put on myself and be like, I'm gay, I instead would just say I'm queer, because then anyone will know that I'm not 100% straight. And that's all that really means. Sometimes a lot of people can take on more than one of these labels, and so just to make it simpler, you would just use the term queer. In the Christian community, there can often be made jokes about how the LGBTQ community is now just alphabet soup and how there's too many words and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying if you identify with one of those labels that you shouldn't use those labels and you should only use the word queer. I'm saying identify however you want to identify, but I label myself as queer because it is the simplest and easiest and just kind of the most blanketed term that I could probably use to identify myself. Now, I probably discovered that I wasn't 100% straight when I was really young. I didn't go through any kind of big transformation or traumatic life experience that somehow made me gay or anything like that. I just knew that even as a young kid, I would watch movies and say there was like a romantic scene. I wouldn't always identify with the woman in that scene. It could be, oh, I actually want to be the guy in this situation. It was just always really clear to me that there wasn't straight girl, straight guy, and then that was it. That just never made sense to me. I understood that people could kind of just be floating around wherever. And that's why we talk about sexuality being a spectrum, because it's not just you're over here or you're over here. It's you could fall anywhere on there. When I started getting into my early teens and teen years, that was when it kind of became a bit more of a noticeable thing in me. I probably had just as many crushes on girls as I did as boys, and it never really bothered me. It wasn't something that was a concern to me until I started going to church. I was taught that God did not want me to be gay. I wasn't specifically taught that God didn't like gays, but that he didn't want me to be gay. So eventually I made the decision that my tendency to like girls as much as I liked guys was more of an affliction, a temptation, something that I had to fight against, an urge that I had to suppress because it wasn't God's will for my life. And I would kind of just hide away the fact that I had been with girls, or that I had a desire to be with girls sometimes. I wouldn't necessarily call what I went through internalized homophobia, because it was not really internal. I was still very vocal about who I was and what I was going through. I still always wanted to be talking about LGBTQ rights and things like that. Like, I still wanted to go to Pride. I still wanted to be involved in the community. I was constantly in dialogue with other Christians who opposed my beliefs, but I still wanted to be having this dialogue about what it meant to be queer and all of these things. I have met a number of Christians who do struggle with internalized homophobia, who really believe that God's will for their life is not to be gay, and so they just have chosen a life of singleness and celibacy and think that they're fulfilled, and maybe they are fulfilled, but I don't think anyone could really feel fulfilled when they are hiding a part of themselves. A side note, if that's you, if you are in the church, or maybe you live with your parents and they are super conservative and it's not a safe space for you, or you fall anywhere under that where you're just afraid to kind of come out and even ask your questions, I'm so sorry, and I'm here for you. Please reach out to me. There's also a number of different helplines and different resources for people in those situations. This is one of those areas about church culture that really irks me, because an all-loving God, I don't think, would ever put people in a situation where they felt the need to hide, or they were afraid, or their life was at risk because they just want to be who they are. There was a lot of talk from people who they'd say, well, if you really pursue God with all your heart, he's going to change your desires. In turn saying, God's going to make you not gay. And I just don't think that's right. Now, a number of months after I left my church, I put up a post on Instagram, and let's see if I'm smart enough to put it into the video. And the post was about me expressing who I am as a queer person. It happened to be National Coming Out Day, and I didn't even know that was a thing before then, but I saw it and I was like, oh, I guess I'll participate. And it was me finally saying out loud, this is a part of me. I had people messaging me, friends that I used to go to church with messaging me, saying, oh my word, I never knew this about you. I never knew you were queer. And I'm like, it wasn't a secret. I didn't hide it. I just didn't go out with girls. That was it. But I was still talking about it all the time, and you clearly weren't listening. And it definitely became a bit of a circle of rumors as like, oh, is this why you left the church? So you could be with women now? Like, what's going on? And yada, yada, yada. And I've never thought that the idea of coming out was necessary for me. I've never felt like I had to announce to anyone, because I've just always been like this. But for some people, it's a big deal to come out and say, hey, this is who I am. And so I wanted to kind of just show those people that I supported them. And just in case anyone didn't know, now they knew. To answer the question, can you be a gay Christian? The answer is yes. The answer's always been yes. There's no rule saying you can't be. And I do not believe that because a person is gay means they're going to hell, or means that God doesn't love them, or that they don't belong in the church. Again, most of this video is just based on my opinion. I'm not talking about what the Bible says. But to all the Christians who want to debate me on this, I just would ask you to look at Jesus, look at his mission, look at his purpose, look at everything he said. Does Jesus even care if people are gay? No. It's a non-issue. He has so many other things to worry about. Maybe Jesus was gay. It's one of my favorite conspiracy theories. Being gay doesn't mean you can't be a Christian. Being a Christian doesn't mean you can't be gay, or get along with gay people, or go to gay weddings, or support gay people, or your gay friends, or your gay children. I don't have any experience with United churches. I honestly don't know a lot about them. All I know is that they are pretty queer friendly. I've never even been to one. Maybe I will someday, but if you are a person who is questioning their sexuality and you need a faith-based place to do that, maybe that's a good option for you. Throughout these videos, I haven't really talked about where I stand right now with my faith and my beliefs, and I understand that that's confusing. I'm planning to get to a video about that eventually, but right now I'm just trying to express what I believe and what I think. All I gotta say is that if God is real and God is the God of the Bible, then that is a God of love and not a God of discrimination or oppression or hate. That God definitely transcends any sexual orientation or identity. And they made you to be whoever you are. If you're confused, if you're scared, if you're questioning, talk to me or someone. But if you're queer and you're in a church and you start asking questions or start trying to confide in people and what you get is rejection or judgment or you're just full of fear, then that's probably not the right place to be. And I know that it's hard to find the right place to be, but you'll find it. I hope you got something out of this. I know I did. There's probably going to be more talk about this. Probably make more videos just talking about sexuality and the church in general. But for now, I love you. Bye. As I always say, everyone's a little bit gay.